In this video, we're going to create a CD disk and put a texture on it. We'll start with the template, and then we'll construct it using cylinders. I found a template for the shape of a CD. I've converted it to a JPEG, and now I'm going to open it in Maya and put it on a free image plane. In Maya, I'll go to Create, Free Image Plane. I'll hit Control A, and I'll apply the texture that I've used for reference. Hitting W, I'll move it back, and I'll put it up on the XY axis and scale it a bit. Over in the alpha on the right hand side now, I'm just going to reduce it and it'll give it some transparency. Make it a little easier to introduce the geometry. Then in the channel box, I'll apply it to its own layer by going to the layer section, clicking on the little plane with the blue ball. And then I'll click in the blank box until I see the R to restrict it, and I'll deselect. Now I'm going to go to my orthographic front view, and in this view I'm going to introduce a polygon cylinder. And once I have the scale I want and a bit of a thickness, I'll go to my channel box under Input. And I want it to be a better quality and a little bit rounder. So if I was to go into where it says Subdivisions under Inputs, I'll make it 40, and it'll round it off even more. So now it's going to look a little bit better once we put our texture on. Now we need to punch the hole. And in my front view, once I've hit 4, I'm going to hit Command D to duplicate, and I'll get my scale tool, and I'll make it the size of the opening that we need for the CD. And then I'm going to go to my perspective view, and I'm going to scale it till it pops through because we're going to use a Boolean modeler to make that hole. I'll select what we're going to keep, the outside disk, and I'll shift select the smaller one, and then I'm going to go to Mesh, Boolean, A-B, and then I'll click on Delete by Type History. So now we've got the shape we need. Next we're going to apply planar mapping to our surface, and then we'll create the texture. I'll begin by deleting the history, freezing the transform, and then I'm going to right click and choose face. Now I want to select just the front faces because I want the back faces to remain that gray. So I'll select one of the front faces. Holding the shift, I'll go about a third of the way around and double click, and I'll just keep double clicking until I get all of them in. So if I were to spin this now, only the front is selected. Now I'm going to apply UV planar mapping, and that will be my Z-axis. I'll hit apply. Then in my channel box, I'll set the projection width and height to the same exact number. I'll right click and choose object mode. And now I will go to the UV editor. And what I'm seeing is the front, which is all I'm really interested in here. And then the broken cylinder that we're seeing in the middle is the outside edge. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, I'm going to choose UV shell. I'll select the small green box and then the smaller disk. Hitting W on the keyboard. There's one other surface. I'll click on it and I'll pull that out as well. So these are going to be the outside edges. And I don't want them to occupy too much of my texture, so I'll marquee select all of them. And I'll get my scale tool and I'll just reduce those to nothing because they're going to be a solid color. I'll tuck them over here in the corner. So when I roll over the face, you can see what is selected and what isn't. I'll return to my object mode, and then inside my UV editor, I'll go to Image and UV Snapshot. I'll direct it to my folder and apply and close. Next we're going to Photoshop and we'll put the texture on. I've opened up my texture and my UV map inside of Photoshop. I'm going to make the UV map a little bit more prominent to see just the tutorial. And then to make it easier to see for the demo, I'll make it red. And now I'm going to copy and paste my texture into the UV map. Selecting it, I'll hit Command A, Command C. Jumping into the PNG, I'll paste. I'll save it as a Photoshop file. And now I'll go ahead and scale it a bit. And I'll turn off the template. Now, I'm going to select the blue edge on the CD texture. I'll put a new layer in right below, and I'll fill it with that, and I'll hit Command S to save. Next, we'll jump into Maya and apply it to our disk. In Maya, I'll right-click and assign a new material, usual Arnold AI standard. I'll name it, and then under the Base tab, I'll click at the end of the Color tab on the checkerboard, and I'll go to File from the Outputs, and I'll find my texture, and I'll hit 6 on the keyboard. Now I have blue on the back here, so I need to just alter my texture a little bit. Jumping back into Photoshop, I'll put the template above so I can actually see it, turn it on for a moment. And then on the blue background I've applied, I'll go in and select those icons that represent the back and the edges of the cylinder, and I'll just make that a gray. I'll deselect Save once I've turned off the UV map. Jumping back into Maya, I'll select the disk, right-click, Material Attribute, and if I click where I applied it originally, I see 3 terms, Reload, Edit, View. I'll click on Reload, and now my background and my edge are gray again, and at this point I can go ahead and make them thinner, and now we have our CD.